Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. If you have a monstera like this Seriana and it's getting close to outgrowing its support system, or if it's simply just growing out of control, then I'll show you a very simple and safe method of propagating it. I've had pretty much 100% success, so let's check it out. This plant is probably the fastest growing plant that I have in my entire collection. I repotted this about a month ago, so a little over a month ago, and I added another extension piece to the support system here. In the previous video, this was the last or latest leaf. It was pushing out this one. It has developed this one right here, and you can see it's now pushing out another leaf. So if you want a fast growing variety of monstera, then I definitely suggest picking up this Seriana. There are a couple ways you can propagate a plant like this, and I decided to choose the air layering method. Now what I didn't want to do was make the cut somewhere along the stem, place it in water, then over time obviously the roots will grow, but then you have to transition those water roots to soil roots, and sometimes that can slow down the plant. Another method is simply cutting a section of the stem, taking that top section, putting it in a pot of soil, but this method has a pretty unpredictable success rate just because it has to grow roots from those nodes. So those aerial roots will have to transition into soil roots. It's a little less predictable than the air layering method. When I repotted the plant a month ago, I also added this Ziploc bag. It does have some damp sphagnum moss inside. So essentially what air layering is you're growing roots on the plant while it's still intact before you make the cut. So when it comes time to cut the plant, you'll have an established root system. You can take the top cutting and put it in its own pot. It might slow down the rate of new leaves temporarily until it establishes a large enough root system to sustain new growth. But this is a really successful way in getting roots before you even make the cut. I just want to explain how I put this on before I actually cut the stem. So I made a cut along the side of the bag as well as the bottom, and then I simply wrapped it around the stem. You want to have the majority of the sphagnum moss at the back of the plant because that's where all the roots are. Now when it came time to closing it up, I simply just used some staples along the bottom and the sides. So as you can see here, it basically just closed it up. And then I closed the top here as well. I left this portion open just so I can add water. You don't want to let the moss get dry, so I just keep it consistently moist. I will take my watering can, dump it in through the top part, and then I cut holes at the bottom of the bag here as little drain holes so that water just doesn't sit in there because you'll pretty much rot those roots. Now, unfortunately, I have to work behind my little plant desk here because if I place it on the desk here, it will hit my ceiling. So I don't want that. And then I use this closed basket just to bring it up a little bit so we can get it at the right height. But now I'm going to take this bag off and then I'll show you where I'll make the cut. So as I'm setting this up, I have it on the closed basket down there, and I'm hoping that we don't have a repeat of what happened in the last video. So all I'm gonna do now is just take my utility knife and just cut this bag off, making sure I'm not cutting any of the roots. And now I should be able to just slide this bag out from the back here. Look at those roots. It's getting stuck right there. And make a little bit of a mess, but now the plant is fully out of the bag. And check out those roots. Now where I'm going to make the cut is probably right here. If I can turn it around a little bit, because all of the roots look like it has come from this node up here. I'm not feeling any on the back. So all of these roots came from this node up here. So if I cut up here, I would be totally safe. But just for getting this plant off of the support stake here, I'm gonna cut it right here. So in between two nodes, and there will be a growth point or a growing eye on the lower portion of this node, like somewhere down there. So I'm gonna cut right in the middle, just away from that node. Hopefully the plant just doesn't fall off there. Now I should be able to just pull the top cutting right off. Oh, it's got a nice long aerial root. So something like that with this big long aerial root. Now I can fit both the top cut as well as the mother plant up on the table here. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this very long aerial root. I'm just going to snip it right there, cut that off, don't need it. But check out the root system on this cutting. So I'm gonna try and take off maybe a little bit of this sphagnum moss, just see if I can loosen it up. And then I can place this right in its own new pot. You can see all these little kind of nubs on the back. Those are what has grown into the moss. So that's why you want most of the moss at the back of the plant, because it's not going to grow roots from the front. It'll definitely wrap around to the front. I'll get to removing the moss here in a minute, but I want to talk about the mother plant. I'm going to be leaving it in this pot exactly as is, because eventually it will get new growth from the top. Now it's not going to grow where I made the cut right here, but what you want to look for is this little oval structure kind of right behind the leaf. This is a growth point or growing eye. That is where a new, stem is going to pop out from. And each node has these growing eyes. Here's another one right there. Now, if I wanted to chop this plant up, each node, like I said, has its own growing eye or growth points. So each node can produce a new plant. So if I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 10 nodes, I could make 10 individual plants if I chop them all up. So if I cut right in between right here, so in between two nodes, this will be its own new plant. And same thing with down here. If I cut this up, it would turn into its own new plant or its own individual plant. So this plant cost me around $50. So if you take 10 of those nodes and over time, as you grow it out, you could potentially earn $500 just from this single plant. And obviously you can cut this one up as well. So you can make some pretty good money if you have time and patience, but it does take time for these little growing eyes to sprout. And a perfect example of that is this right here. This is my green on green monstera single node cutting. This little horn-like structure has been taking its very sweet time. It's probably been in this container for, I don't know, it's been in there for months. So what I think is going on is it's probably not receiving enough light. So I've moved it to a brighter light location. Plus it might not be as, warm. So it has to be within a certain temperature. My basement here is 23 degrees. It should be warm enough. So I'm guessing it's probably a light issue, but don't be surprised if it takes a very long time for a new growth point to kind of pop out of that node. Very similar to this. So this will be a new stem. So it'll continue to grow. Eventually it'll push out leaves. Very similar to this right here. I also have a sphagnum moss prop box. This is just a cinnamon bun container from Costco, repurposed as a prop box. Here is another green on green monstera individual node cutting. And you can see it's getting a nice little nub right there. And then I do have a variety of other philodendrons, pothos, and alocasia in here as well. So this is an alocasia. These are philodendron. This is a larger pothos stem or cutting right there. And then these are some other philodendrons. So yeah, this is my little cinnamon bun sphagnum moss prop box. So what I'm going to do is just cut this node off like that. And you can see it wasn't even attached. Now it fits better into the pot. And once I remove all of the sphagnum moss, it should be seated right on the bottom. And you can see this one right here also has a really nice growing eye. So I'll put this in my prop box and I will get another Cereana from this plant. I'm just going to be using this pencil just to help me loosen up the sphagnum moss, and then I can pull it away because I don't want to break roots like this. I just want to kind of ease the moss away from around the roots and just pull it away. I probably won't be able to get all of it off, but I just don't want it sitting in the sphagnum moss, because when you water it, it's just going to hold on and just soak up that moisture, and I don't want there to be any root rot. You can also use an aeroid mix in replacement of the sphagnum moss. I've just had really good success, like I said, 100% success with sphagnum moss in particular. It's not perfect, but I got most of the sphagnum moss off. I don't want to risk damaging like these smaller secondary roots. So now I'm going to pot it up in this terracotta. You can see it's got quite a bit of room for root expansion, but I'm going to be placing it on a wood support. I'm just going to be using my little 3D printed support boot, and I'm just going to place it in the pot like this. Now all I have to do is secure it to the wood plank and then just add in some soil. This support was made for a smaller pot, so I'm just going to pull this down a little bit. I'm actually going to add a little bit of soil just at the bottom. So this is the VeryPlants aeroid mix. Just a nice chunky, well-draining soil. There is a discount code in the description of this video if you want to give it a try. It is a really good quality soil. I'm going to move this over here. Now all I'm going to do is just dump in the soil, and I'm going to lean the support pole or the support stake just slightly back, just a little bit. I'm going to add some at the back of the plank here as well. Like that, and then just kind of poke it down around the roots. And then I'm going to take this over to my bathroom here. I have a garden hose in my basement, and I'm just going to give it a good thorough watering. That way it can help settle the soil. It's going to make sure it is upright and straight. Everything looks good. I do have to make some modifications to the size for the plank support for larger pots. So maybe something like that, because once the soil's on top, in theory it should stabilize it more than if it just had the plank in the pot, if that makes sense. There's a little foot or a little bottom portion where when the soil is on top, it should help stabilize it quite a bit more. Now I have two separate plants. I just give it a good thorough watering, cleaned off the leaves. This thing is actually really stable in the pot with that just the smaller support. I'll quickly show how I secured it to the plank. I just used this plant Velcro. I made sure the stem is butted right up against the wood plank, so it's on there really snug. Now the reason why is because this aerial root right here, over time, as it continues to grow, it'll latch onto the wood plank, and same with the other nodes as it continues to grow. Now the thing about this specific monstera is the internodes, so this spacing in between two nodes is quite long. So this plant does look quite leggy, so maybe I'll try and put another plant in one pot, and hopefully at some point we'll have a nice full looking pot. But this one is absolutely gorgeous. I'm really happy that I was able to separate them, and now I have two plants. This one might be an experiment plant down the road. Once that new growth point pops out and starts to push out new growth, then I can just continuously propagate it. But I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. I hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. Otherwise, thanks for watching all my videos. Take care, everyone. Bye.